I did so many things between the end of Subrosa and the beginning of the Keening that I never would have done otherwise. And I admit, like when I ended Subrosa, there was that a moment of like, oh my gosh, I have some free time. I can go do some things I want to do. This was a year before the pandemic happened and then everyone had free time.
What's up, everybody? It's Keefy at GhostCultMag.com, and I am so humbled and honored to be joined by Rebecca Vernon. Too many coffees.
The mouthful.
And I am honored to be joined by Rebecca Vernon of the Keening, formerly of Subrosa, and live from a park.
Yes, that's right.
How are you doing today?
I am doing awesome. Thank you. It's been a little bit hectic, but right now I feel calm and I'm happy to be here. So
yeah, I'm so happy to see you. I was saying offline that I was such a big fan of Subrosa, and just like marriages end and people pass away, your bands sometimes pass into existence. It was magical for a time, and bands break up for a reason. It's never a bad reason, just like everything else. It's on to the next thing. And here you are. You have the Keening and this amazing record out today. So congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a big milestone for sure.
Yeah, I think you were working on it for quite a while. So let's, if you don't mind, just bring us up to speed on the time in between the end of one thing and the beginning of.
Yeah, so I wanted to start a band like the Keening for about a year and a half before Subrosa ended. I knew I wanted to kind of do a solo thing on the side, and I tried to do it at the same time as Subrosa, and we just kept getting opportunities, which is a great thing to have happen, but I was struggling to find the time to work on this solo material. And I really felt like I wanted to turn my focus to that. And I just couldn't. And so after trying for a long time, I finally kind of a process for me to come to the conclusion that, I felt like I think I need to end Subrosa in order to do this other project. And it took me about 2 or 3 months, maybe 2 months after I had that epiphany to still, because I didn't want to make a mistake. So I really processed it and thought about it and slept on it and took lots of long walks and finally just realized that, I still felt the same way. And so, yeah.
Fully understandable. And again, these things are much more, fans get very attached to things, but
they do.
Your band is also like a child. It's your thing. You're watching it grow, and you feel responsible for it. Having been in several bands to much less fortune and fame, but they matter no less to everything. Your music matters to you. What you do with the rest of your life matters. It's your art first and foremost before we ever hear a note. So
right.
I'm sensitive to that, and you also have to live in between. I always say it's like bands are not just like in suspended animation between albums. Yes. You're living your life and having experiences that color your music and your art later. So
it's totally true. I did so many things between the end of Subrosa and the beginning of the Keening that I never would have done otherwise. And I admit, like when I ended Subrosa, there was that a moment of like, oh my gosh, I have some free time. I can go do some things I want to do. This was a year before the pandemic happened and then everyone had free time. Yeah, it was just there was those moments. I started writing stuff for the Keening pretty soon after Subrosa officially ended, after we officially made the announcement. A month later, I went to Joshua Tree, the beginnings of the skeletons for Little Bird. But then I kind of put it aside for almost a year because my work got really, really busy and I hit some roadblocks and that kind of thing. My niece is showing up with my snow cone. Thank you, Zara. Do you want to see my niece?
Say hello.
Do you want to? Here's my niece, Zara. I'm so proud of her, Zara Vernon.
Hello.
She's so amazing.
I have your card.
Okay, thank you. Anyway, yes, I love all my nieces and nephews. I have 9 of them, and they're just incredible. Thank you.
That is a big family.
Yeah. Bye, Zara. Cool.
That was great.
So yeah, nice little cameo there. So anyway, I put it aside for like about a year. I picked it up again. I was having some inner blocks too, like a lot of self-doubt and just darkness in general. And about a year later, I picked it up again. And right before picking it up again, I had this feeling like, I think I'm going to encounter a lot of blocks and darkness again. And I did. Anyway, it was just a huge struggle to bring this album into being. And like, I knew that it had to come about. I knew this music had to happen, but it was the fight of my life. Like, I'm not I'm not exaggerating. It took everything that I had to make this album.
Well, it sounds like it, and it's thank you for sharing that. And you know, for better or worse, it's here now, and I'm really glad it is. This has been one of the most enjoyable albums I've gotten to hear this whole year, but especially right now. It seemingly, I don't know if it's just me or my own issues, but it just hit me a certain way for this season very well. You know, just seems like autumn mood. You know, not just because the title track, you know, the lead track is autumn, but it's like mood music for the fall. You know, like very earthy and very you know, just like the season, very, you know, very of the moment.
Yeah, thank you so much. That means a lot to me to hear that it did you.
And you know, it's for, you know, I get the sense, you know, I know you worked again with Billy Anderson, who you know well, and me being now based in the Bay Area, I get to see around town often. And but Bill, you know, when he shows up at shows and things and plays gigs, I've even seen him play a few gigs the last few years, which is mind blowing to me. But just randomly, here's Billy on stage also. But you know, I love the production here, and it really seems like a lot of, like, it's very, it can be, you know, the arrangements might be sparse at times, but it feels very lush. And I don't know if that makes sense to you as the writer and creator of this, but it's just everything. There's nothing muddy. Everything rings through, especially, you know, your main instruments here, your strings and other things just kind of shine through. And it's just very pristine. And I think for, you know, recording some of this could have definitely posed you some challenges.
Thank you so much. Like, I will say that we all worked hard on the production, but Billy slaved over the production. I mean, it was such a challenge to mix this album. Like, it sounds pretty deceptively minimal in parts. I initially wanted it to sound really sparse and minimal, but ended up adding so many layers that that gives it that lushness. That, I mean, it was a huge challenge to mix, and I think it's probably one of the most challenging albums he's ever mixed. I think he said one of the only other bands that had more layers than me was Bell Witch, their last album. And that actually made me feel better. I was like, okay, Dylan and Jesse, they're like that too. But yeah, we worked so hard, and the first mix actually and master, we thought we were done, and it sat for about a year and a half. When we started mixing the second album, realized that there were things lacking in the first album. Well, I always knew there was something I wasn't completely happy about in the production of the first album. It was a little too smooth and a little too creamy or something. It didn't have that sharpness. And so we discovered the key to fixing that in the second album. And we went back to the first album, remixed the whole thing and remastered the whole thing. So yeah, that happened.
That sounds arduous. Wow.
It was arduous. And a big part of that remix was bringing out the separateness of the instruments, making it more sharp. Basically, we just turned up the mids on a lot of things. And so that, and you know, it wasn't that simple, but we had to go in with a scalpel and stuff. But yeah, that is why you're hearing that separation a little better. So yeah.
And there it goes. Thank you for that explanation and unpacking all that. And wow, I mean, I don't think a lot of people appreciate that the work is not done when you're done recording, that there's so much more to making an album than just doing the tracks. And,
yes.
And maybe even mastering and mixing is almost starting to become a little bit of a lost art. Maybe a little less so. And we have so many great ears and so many great producing minds, underground music, but it definitely, if you listen to pop music, it's like, what, why, like, did they just put this on Spotify? They did just put it on Spotify right from the DAW. They didn't
from GarageBand.
Yeah. Like GarageBand or Fruity Loops or whatever kids these days. I also want to talk about another friend to Ghost Cult, Nathan Carlson. People know him from Witch Mountain or Nano Terror Booking, but he's on the drums here and percussion, and it's just such a humongous element to the record. And it brings so much to the tracks, and he did a fantastic job. I think people...
I actually played the drums on the album.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. But Nate plays it live.
Oh, okay,
and
that's it.
And I played on his drum set on the album.
Oh,
so I'm not surprised if it sounded like
him. Yeah.
There's an element of Witch Mountain in there because it's actually his drum set that I'm playing.
That's
I borrowed
crazy.
it.
I had no idea. There you go. Thank you for correcting me. And
oh, no problem.
I
don't think it's in the press release. I probably should have put it in there, but anyway.
Okay. You know, part of this is to be surprised. If I had all the intel and my own opinions and I still did everything that I normally do and I don't get a surprise once in a while, it's dull. So it's cool.
Yeah.
It definitely sounds like, there's definitely that, and wow, your drumming's amazing on here, then I'll give you the credit. And he would be the right person to go do it live too, because he's terrific. And yeah, I hear that, definitely hear that, those elements. It sounded, I was like, oh yeah, is that in, everybody knows that drum sound is like, oh, so tuned to him, so that's cool.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, his drum set is so like coveted or beloved that other bands have borrowed his drum set for their albums as well. I can't remember who, but he would be the best to tell you, but like several have used his drum set in the studio.
No,
yeah.
That's a fact. And I actually got to see him play live at the last, and hopefully not the last, but the last Psycho Las Vegas, where Witch Mountain reunited with Uda and did a set there. So like I was like right in front of the stage. It was like hitting me dead center. I had to. That's the only way to experience. But
yeah.
This album, let's unpack this record a little bit and jump into the track by tracks. Rather than me gush on about how much I do love this record, Little Bird, it's so, like I said, it's just so many layers, and that's what I love about this music. And of course, as we referenced earlier, the lead track, the opening track, is Autumn.
Yes. So Autumn is actually one of the oldest songs on the record. It was written for the last Subrosa album, actually. I got it to the demo stage and we were going to record it for the album. But as we got a little closer to deciding on the final tracks, we realized that it sounded a little bit too, it just didn't fit the vibe of the rest of the album. It was a little too folky. And so we ended up not putting it on the album. And that was one of those moments when I thought, I think I need to do a solo project that can do more of these folky type numbers that don't fit with Subrosa. That's kind of the story of Autumn.
Very cool, and you definitely did that here.
Thank you.
That's definitely the sound of the band. Eden is the next track.
Yes, so Eden also is one of the older songs on the album. We were considering it for Subrosa at some point. It never completely materialized. And for this album, I was really struggling with it. I had to rewrite it drastically. And at times I thought about just dropping it. It was my least favorite song on the album. And then it was rescued by me rewriting the verses completely and just revamping the whole thing. And now it's probably my favorite song to play live because the organ, we just blast everyone with the organ sounds, and it's awesome. And then the heavy parts are very heavy live, so it's a lot of fun to play.
That's amazing. Sometimes a song will surprise you. The title track is next, and it's actually my favorite track on here, and everything about it, the video, the song, it definitely encompasses everything. But tell me your take on Little Bird.
So Little Bird is the first song I've written completely on piano, and I started writing it at Joshua Tree that month after Subrosa we announced our ending. And it's a lot of people's favorite track. It's probably the most personal song on the album. I think it's a song that a lot of people could probably relate to, the themes of just, feeling like you're kind of trapped in something and you want to break free, and just the strength that it takes to do that, and the price sometimes you have to pay and the things you lose along the way. Eden kind of has some of those themes as well, so yeah.
The next two tracks make up a little suite that I really enjoy. Yes. The Hunter one.
Yes, so they're both related, of course. And the Hunter one, it's basically it's an analogy. It's a story about, witnessing the murder of a girl, or witnessing something evil, I guess. The person sees that you saw them, and then the murderer chases you for the rest of your life because he wants to silence you. And then Hunter 2 is just a little bit more of unpacking a little more about the hunter and who and what the hunter is. And that's basically what it's about. And Hunter 2, I absolutely love. One of my favorite parts is the interplay between the flute and the violin playing between Andrea Morgan and Kelly Schilling. She just got married, so I don't know if she changed her last name, but Kelly Schilling of Dreadnought. And anyway, I think that the way those two played were amazing. They both recorded it separately. Andrea up in Portland and Kelly down in Denver. And then, but it came together so well. Maybe one day they'll do it live together. I don't know. So
maybe we need our friends at Roadburn or something to commission you to go over there and do something.
The ironic thing is Kelly did play flute with Subrosa at Roadburn when we did Subrosa Subdued, and it was a lovely addition. So,
I remember it. We covered Roadburn basically every year it's ever had, and I went myself once. So
cool.
Shout out to Walter at Roadburn. And then Little Bird, the album, closes with this unbelievable incredible last track, The Truth.
Yes, The Truth. That one was my favorite one to write. And I'm like, I don't know if you're allowed to say if you have a favorite song, but that one is my favorite. So yeah, that one is the most sweet like in nature, the most like kind of an operatic kind of feel that I was going for and want to explore even more in future albums. So yeah, I just love old structures of classical music that had different suites that were related to each other and went from one to the other and sometimes repeated, sometimes didn't. So I started doing that in Subrosa near the end, and it's something I want to keep doing. I don't know. I just like that style of songwriting. So
nice. I have a bit of I also felt that like it had motifs and moves and things. So I definitely
cool.
sense that. Yeah, tremendous album, and it's
Thank
finally
you.
here. And thank you so much for everything you went through to make it. Hopefully the next one is easier. But you can't predict what's gonna happen.
You can't predict what's going to happen. You have a plan in your mind, and then the plan doesn't work out, and you stumble and fall, and then you get up and you keep going. Hopefully, the second album was actually even harder, but I'm hoping the third album will be easier. So I think it will be.
Awesome. I like to end these interviews with a wild card question, and so my final one for you is very typical of the fall. Pumpkin spice as a flavor, terrible or awesome?
I actually do not like pumpkin flavored anything. I'll eat it. Pumpkin flavor actually is not so bad, but pumpkin pie itself, I don't like pumpkin pie. I mean, I'll eat it if there's nothing else to eat, but I don't love it.
I am not a fan of pumpkin flavored things, and I will have pumpkin pie, but for the holidays or something, but not a pumpkin spice bitch myself. And now sweet potato pie is vastly superior.
Vastly superior. I love sweet potato pie. I love any kind of pie probably better than pumpkin pie. I like fruit pie. I actually love pie. I love pie that resembles like candy bars, like chocolate peanut butter pie and things like that.
Now you're talking my language. Rebecca, you are a treasure. Thank you so much for this. I appreciate everything that went into making this record, and I know that our viewers and listeners do as well. Thank you so much for this. Congratulations on Little Bird from the Keening out now. And all the best to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the interview. I appreciate your questions and the thought you put into everything. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. You're very welcome.